Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing auto layout, and this video is going to be the part one of our auto layout series. Grab your seat and let's get started. Auto layout basically is one of the topics that beginner designers always avoid. I don't know why. Even when I started out as a designer, I usually avoid auto layout. But I've come to understand that over the years, while working on multiple projects, I've realized that auto layout can actually help ease a lot of things for you. So in part one of this series, we are going to be discussing the basics of auto layout. Design a simple button, like a simple responsive button or buttons, like we just flow with the what's it called, tutorial or maybe the video, right? Then we are also going to, after designing the responsive button, we're going to design a simple responsive sign up form. So let's get started. So on the part one today, like I said, we're just going to be discussing the basics of auto layout. So auto layout basically is a functionality in Figma. I use Figma for my designs. I don't know about other design tools, right? I use Figma to create my designs. So auto layout is a functionality in Figma that allows you to create responsive designs, that allows you to create responsive design in the sense that you create designs that adjust to the size of their elements or the position of their elements. What do I mean by that? Auto layout uses three main features. The first feature is hug content, right? Hug content. The second feature, let me just pull this up. The second feature is fill container, right? Container. And the third feature is fixed width. So as for beginner designers, if you don't know how to efficiently or use Figma yet, I did a Figma crash course that will enable you know how to use Figma as a tool and also design amazing design. So if you haven't watched the video, you might want to go back, or maybe after watching this video, you might want to go back to watch it. It will help you to understand a lot of things, and it will help you to understand a lot of tools that we're going to be using, or a lot of things that we'll be doing in case you're just starting out. So back to our discussion. So auto layout is a functionality in Figma that allows you to create responsive designs, right? And it has three features. You have the hug content, you have the fill container, and you have the fill fixed width. When you talk about hug content allows or enables you to create designs that adjust to the size of their elements. What do I mean by that? To the size of the elements in them. For example, if I have like a box like this, right? This is a box. Let me give it a color so that we can see it. So when you talk about hug content, right? What hug content does is that it helps you to create designs that adjust the size of elements in them. So let's say I have this container now, right? Let's put text inside. But okay, let's call it button. Let's call it a button, right? Just adjust the size, right? Let's make this medium so that it can be more visible, right? So like the way this button is now, it doesn't have an auto layout. If you want to make any element, or maybe design, or your design elements, if you want to turn them into auto layouts, you want to add auto layout to them, right? You can just click and come to the right hand side here and add auto layout, and yeah, you've added auto layout. Once you can see the padding being specified in your elements, you know that you've added auto layout. Another way you can do that is to right click, right? When you right click, you can see add auto layout. You add auto layout, right? You see I've added auto layouts to it. Another way is to press Shift A. Shift A is the shortcut for auto layout. So once you add auto layout, right, by default is on hug content, right? You can see hug content. It means that it should hug the contents inside the container itself, because this box, this blue box, right, is a container, and this button, this text here, is the element inside the container, right? Because it's on hug content, if I add more elements here, it will just adjust to the size of that element, making it responsive. You can see, because I'm adding more elements, it's just adjusting to the size of the element. Pressing Ctrl Z to undo that, right? And you can see inside this button now, you can see the space by the right and left is 26. That's padding left and right. So padding is the space inside an element, right? While margin is the space around an element, but we're not going to go into that today. I just want to point that out. If I reduce the padding, if I reduce the space inside this button now, inside the button left and right, let's say we call it 16, it adjusts to it because we've removed space. If we add and like extra space, let's say 64, both left and right, you can see it has adjusted to the space, because space is also a kind of invisible element in a design, or in a design element, right? It also adds to the design, right? So moving on, that's hug content. You can use hug content to create a lot of that. Instead of you trying to probably increase the size of the text because you've added much things inside, it's just like basically and automatically adjust to them. So let's assume that we change this button, right? Let's duplicate it by pressing down on Alt and dragging it out, or just press Ctrl C, Ctrl V to duplicate, right? So now let's take this button from hug content to fixed width, right? Remember, when it's on hug content, it adjusts to the size of the elements inside it. Like no matter what you put inside this, it's going to adjust to it. It's going to take the size of that element that you're putting in. But when it's on fixed, we've put it in fixed, both left and right. That is both width and height, right? Both horizontally and vertically. It's not going to adjust to it. No matter what you put, it's not going to adjust to it because it's on fixed. Like you've told you that don't move. No matter what I put inside you, you've told this box, this particular blue box, don't move. No matter what I put inside you, don't do anything. Just stay there. Just stay static, right? Just be there, right? That's what you've told it. But what you told the hug content or the button above is that whenever I put something inside you, make sure you adjust the content or the size of that, whether no matter what it is. Okay, let's assume we put another element inside it. You can see it has adjusted to it. Let's assume we put another element inside it. The reason is actually like aligning horizontally, like just on a straight line like this, is because this auto layer card is just like configured to just align things to the horizontal axis. Like when you click on it now, you can see that it's like has been configured to align things horizontally, right? In the horizontal direction, right? If we want it to start aligning these things straight, like vertically, like this, right? To align it straight, what we will do is to change it from this horizontal direction to the vertical direction, and you can see it has adjusted to it. Now we can adjust things vertically and horizontally. You can see the way it's adjusting vertically and horizontally, right? If I increase this now, it increases. If I increase this now, it increases, right? So that's auto layout when it comes to hug content. I just want you guys to understand it, right? Hug content adjusts to the size of elements in them. Like the container is the one obeying the elements in them. Why fixed width doesn't do anything, it just stays like static. It doesn't adjust to the size of the element, it just stays there. Now coming back to fill container. What is fill container? Fill container helps you to create, or maybe helps your elements, like these elements now. Remember, hug content will help this container to adjust to the size of this element. If I increase this element now, the container adjusts to the size of it. What fill content does is that it helps you to create elements that adjust to the size of their container, right? It helps you to create elements that adjust to the size of their container. So if I want, for example, if I increase this container now, if I increase this container, this blue box now, if I increase it, you can see that the elements are just there. They're just static. They're not adjusting. They're just the same size. If I want these boxes, right? If I want these boxes to adjust to the size of their elements, whether to the whether the width or the height, right? What I will do is to change it, like change it from fixed or maybe whatever it is to fill container, right? You can see it fills the container immediately. If I take this one now and say fill container, it also fills the container. Let's add padding top to this. Let's increase the space. When you say add padding top, yeah, you increase the space at the top. Let's say 48 by 48, right? We've configured it to adjust to the size of the container. When we increase the container from left to right, right? But if you also increase this container now, if you increase this container if you increase it from the top to the bottom or something, you notice that the elements, they don't adjust. They only adjust to the left and right, right? So how do we make it? So what you would do is, because this is the width, right? And is on fill, you also change. If you want the element in your design to adjust to both the width and the length or the height of your container that you're designing with, you put it on fill container for both height and width, right? So if I adjust this now, right, to the left and right, and I adjust it from top to bottom, you can see, because this one is on fill container for both the left and right axis, I mean, both left and right directions, or both height and width, right? It's adjusting to the size of the container. Let's also make this one fill container. Let's fill container. What fill container does is that you tell it to like make sure that you occupy in the necessary space that you need to in the container. I'm just like, because this is the part one, I just want to start with the simplest explanation for auto layout, right? Then we can go from there into the advanced level, right? Because it can actually get complex, but it's not rocket science. It's something that you grab with time, right? So what will help you as a beginner designer, right? When you are watching a video like this, first you watch the video the first time to probably understand and to listen, right? The second one, you watch to understand it in detail, like very well. Then the third time, you watch it to practice why I'm doing, or maybe why the person that you're watching is doing it. What it helps you to do is that practice will help you to understand, like know what you've actually learned. It will help you to understand what you have actually learned, right? So don't just jump into just practicing, just listen, and then you can practice. By practicing, then by practicing, you're solidifying all the things you've learned, right? So when I increase this now, it increases. When I increase this to the bottom, it increases, because these two boxes, right, they are in fill container. So anytime you're creating a design, so this is the secret behind it. Anytime you're creating a design and you want your elements to adjust to the size of your container, use fill content, right? The reason we are able to use fill container, the reason we are able to use fill container is because this container that we have, this blue one, has auto layout, right? And then you have elements inside them. But if they were outside, just like we have this button here, if they were like outside, if this button was alone and there was no container inside it, let's say, and there was no, let me just take it back, button, right? And there was no container inside it, right? I mean, and it was not in, and it's not in any container, the button on just on its own, you will not see the fill content feature because it's not in any container, another container that has, what's it called? Auto layout. If I take this button now and bring it in here and change the color, let's give the button another color so that we can identify it. Now that I've brought this button in here now, once I click on it, now you notice that it has an additional feature, which is fill container. If I say fill container now, it adjusts to the size of that container. The reason it's not extended to the edge is because we have like space here, which is padding left and right, which is 16, and we have padding left and top and bottom. So if I increase this now, you can see the bottom we also adjust to the size of the box. We are gradually creating our sign-up form and stuff, right? So now let's assume you want to create for different screens. So one of the things that auto layout helps you to do, number one, it helps you to maintain the consistency of your design, right? It helps you to maintain the spacing. If you notice, I didn't have to like start adjusting the space. If I want to adjust the space between these elements now, I'll just highlight it and it opens up. I just come here, like where the space is, and put the number of space I want. And you see, it just automatically adjusts the space for me. Unlike when you have like designs that don't have auto layout in them. Let's say we create another design, right? Let's just have a duplicate of this, right? And then copy this and paste. Remember, this particular design, this particular card doesn't have an auto layout. So let's say we have this and we have you see the way I'm just trying to manually adjust a lot of things. That's because it doesn't have what auto layout helps you. You can see it doesn't have like auto layout. I will have to start, if I increase this container to this length, I will have to start manually adjusting and checking to know if I'm actually doing it right. Unlike if it was like this one that has auto layout, I'll just like increase the size of the screen and it will just adjust to the container. Let's increase the size by the space by the left and right. Let's increase it to maybe like 32, right? So we can have like breathing space. Unlike that. So what auto layout helps you do, it helps you to maintain the consistency of your design. You don't have to worry about space and it saves you time, right? It saves you time. Just look at the time that I would have been using to adjust the designs manually. I can just channel that time into designing every other thing that I want to design. So now, where responsiveness comes is that you can see this design is actually responsive. So you don't need to like necessarily start like oh, I want to design for the home page. I want to design for the desktop screen. I want to design for tablets. Okay, let's assume you have a task to create this login or maybe this particular design, right, for mobile, right? Let's call it. Let's use this one as template. Let's call this one template, right? So you were given a task to create for mobile, desktop and tablet. What you just do is to, like, now you've created it and you can see that the design is responsive. What you would do is to change the sizes of these cards or maybe this canvas to suit the design that the device size that you're creating. So if I'm creating for desktop, I can just change it to the size 1440, right? 1440, you can see it has adjusted to it, 1440 by 1024, and voila, we have our design here. We have it here. So I can just choose to maybe like increase the size of this button and we have it here. Or another way I can do that is to increase the padding. I don't want it to be too fat. I can increase the padding. You can say maybe the padding top can be 64, right? And it's too small, can be 200. Then the padding left and right, because I want it to come in. You can see the way I'm adding space and the thing is just adjusting. I can say, okay, the padding left and right, maybe like 200 again. Let's do that. And you can see I have this. I'm just going to delete the text here. Now we've created this for the desktop, right? Now let's create for tablet. I can just do maybe like change it to 700 for tablet, right? You can see it has adjusted for tablet. And we can do the height, maybe 600, can do the height. And the same thing that we did for desktop, we can do padding left and right, you can do 64, right? And we can also do maybe like 80 for desktop, and voila, we have this. We can increase the size of this as well. So we have our desktop. You can see I didn't have to start creating everything manually because I already have like a design that can adjust to the size of its container, right? I have elements. I've made the elements in my design to adjust to the size of its container. Then for mobile, you can do 375, right? By 812, and we have this. So we can just we can also do the same thing here. We can just increase the padding top, right? We can just do probably 80 as well. And then yeah, I think 32 is okay. So if we don't want it like that, we can just reduce it and also reduce this one as well, right? And voila, we have our desktop, mobile, and tablet designs. You can see. So now with this knowledge that we've acquired, or maybe with the understanding of this of what hot content does in auto layout, what fill content does in auto layout, and what fixed content does in auto layout, let's create a simple login form for a mobile screen. So let's say the mobile screen size we want to use is 375 by 812. Let's just rename it. So when you want to rename it, double click the naming side on your canvas and name it. So we can call it mobile, right? And we will turn it into auto layout. Like we'll turn it into auto layout first, right? Then we'll make padding left and right 24. Then padding top and bottom, we can make it 32. But we don't want it to adjust to the size of its element. We only want the element to adjust to its size, right? To the size of this. We don't want it because we are creating for specific screens. If we put it on hot content, it will alter the size of this element. You can see it will alter the size of it. It has moved it from 37. If I reduce it now, it has moved it from 375 to 193, and that's not what you want. We are creating for this specific mobile screen size, so we can just make it fixed, right? We just make it fixed. So whether we add anything, it will not adjust to the size of the element we add into it. It's only the elements that we are going to enable to adjust to its size. Again, I hope you understand that. So I'm just going to create, let's say we create or maybe make it 48. Let's create our form field, right? We can call this input field, right? Input field. Also remember, when you are designing, remember to name your layers. You can see the way I name my layer. So I'm going to give this, remember, I just brought it in. I'm just going to give it a stroke size and then reduce the color a little bit and fade it out so that it doesn't have to be too harsh, right? And I then maybe like made the corner radius 8. What I would do, okay, now that I've put it in, you can see that I put it in, you can see it's extending to the outside. The reason it has this is because there is a space here. Remember, we used 24 ps by 24 ps by the left and right. So if you want this design to just adjust and stay in the center and obey the paddings and spacing around these elements, we just change it from fixed to fill container, and you can see it has adjusted to the side. So if I increase the size of this what's it called, mobile screen, now you can see it increasing and decreasing, increasing and decreasing. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z and take it back to 375, right? So now we need a text. Let's call it create an account now. Okay, so and then yeah, I think, okay, let's increase the size a little, maybe like to 20. Yeah, so we'll still come back to adjust something. Now we're going to label this, right, so as to improve the user experience. So email, so I'm going to change this from 20 to 14 and reduce the black in it, like make it gray because a pure black on pure white is not ideal for accessibility, right? So I'm going to duplicate this and call this, oh yeah, we need to collect the user's name. You can call this name, right? And then maybe have like a placeholder text, have like a placeholder text we can use for it. Call it please enter name, right? Just like that, we're just doing something samples. And then because it's a placeholder, it doesn't have to be too pronounced and we can change it from medium to that. Let's delete this and then duplicate this, right? Then we have an email, right? So here it will turn to please enter email, right? And then we have the next one. Which other one do we have? We need the user's password. Yeah, the users need to set up their password. So we have password, right? So we can say, please enter. It's beginning to sound so generic, but you can also use your own words to make it sound much better. And then we're going to create our button, right? So we create our button. We don't need to, so 48 by height. Then we can give our button a color, right? Or maybe we just pick this color from here. I like the purple. Just pick this color from here and then give our button a corner radius of 8. And then you can see the button is not the same size again. We don't want to start adjusting and changing or anything. We can just, what we'll do is just make the button to do what? Fill container, and it will just adjust to the size of that container. If you notice, everything here looks a little bit tight. The reason is because the spacing between these elements by default is 10. So we're going to increase the spacing between them, then to increase the spacing between these elements and probably take it to probably 24, right? And then we have breathing room. And also, we don't want the spacing, this element to be too close to the top. Remember, we have 32 padding at the top and we have 32 padding at the bottom. Since we don't have too much elements towards the bottom part, so we don't necessarily need to increase the padding bottom, but let's increase the padding top for 64, right? To push it down and give it a breathing room at the top. And also, if you notice, these elements, they're also too close to this title and we want to do something about it. How we can go about it is, then what we can do is maybe like group this element because they belong together. Because these elements belong together, we need to put them in their own auto layout, right? So I select them by pressing down on Shift, right? Oh, let me label this button first. Button, just call it button. And then we can make it a little bit older. Yeah, I think it's okay. And then center it, right? So we can just select this element because they belong together and then turn them into their own auto layout. Change to add auto layout and voila, we have another auto layer. Remember, these elements, they are on fill container, right? They are on fill container. Let's change them to fill container. And you know, these boxes also, they're already on, they were on fill container, but they've changed to, they've changed to fixed width. So you might need to always check to see that they are still in fill container. If they're not, you notice. So let's increase the size of this, what's it called? Our form field and see if it adjusts. You can see it's not adjusting. Why is it not adjusting? Let's check. The reason is because this particular container is on hot content, so it will not obey the command of it adjusting to the size of its container. What we will do is to take this one and change it to fill container, and it will then adjust because every other element, if only this one is only one on fill container and these ones are on fixed content, fixed width, they won't adjust, right? So now that everything is on fill container, when you adjust this now, all of them will automatically adjust, right, to the size of the element. This button as well is on fixed, so it will not adjust, right? So now that it's on fill, if I increase the width of this now, if I increase the width of this, you can see it adjusting to the size of its container. You can see the elements adjusting to the size of its container. Also, when you notice, this particular text is actually not adjusting, right? Let me control Z. 372, 375, sorry. This particular text is actually not adjusting. So what we'll do is to change it from hot container to fill container. If we adjust it now, if we adjust the container now, we'll notice that it's adjusting. You can see it's adjusting to the size of the container, right? Let's take it back to the original size, 375. So we've been able to like create amazing forms. So what we'll do is we still need space. We still need enough space between this title and these what's it called? This particular group of elements, right? The login form. So we can do maybe like 64 to push them down a little bit. And you can see we have and we can choose to center every element because these ones are already in a container, right? We can choose to center every element so that we can make this one stay in the middle, right? Center this and we can make it stay in the middle, right? And now we are good to go. This is our simple sign up form, or let's make it create an account, and voila, this is our okay. Now you can see that this button as well, I'm having to just manually adjust this text whenever I put it in. What I will do is just turn it into auto layout, right click and turn into auto layout, or add auto layout, or just press shift A, right? So now, instead of me to, anytime I want, I put this in and adjust to the right, what I will do is to constrain this, right? Constrain this particular text to the middle. So anytime I change anything, everything will just be constrained to the middle. It will not move away from there, right? So that's it for that's it for part one of this auto layer, right? So you can see we've created a responsive button. We've created responsive elements that respond to the size of their container, and container that responds to the size of elements in them. One of the things that you should note is, remember hot content. Hot content helps you to create containers that adjust to the size of their elements, right? Then fill content helps you to create elements that adjust to the size of their container. Let me know if you have questions in the comment section. If you want me to discuss any topic here on Good Designer channel, feel free to drop it. I'm going to link a form that will help me collect the topics that you guys would like to learn, right? So let's grow this channel together. Let me help you guys as beginner designers. Let me help you grow and also demystify a lot of things. My aim here on The Good Designer is to help make your journey in design, especially as a UX designer, simple and seamless, to simplify the process for you and make life a little bit easier. So let me know what you think. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and click that like button, and also share with your friends. So thank you very much, and see you next time. Don't forget to come back to the channel to check out the part 2 of this video. So we'll grow from there. And then at the end of what's it called, this series, we'll be designing a